This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, about to drop episode 403 with all of you, talking about the Detroit Lions, the Detroit Red Wings, all good news, baby. Cuz, what's up? Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's good, sir?
Look, man, we're what, a week-ish out from an NFL draft where I don't think I've ever felt more confident in the Lions front office than I do at this exact moment. So you know it's a good time. If you're a Lions fan, you've got to be pumped.
Absolutely. We are 7 days away. Thursday, April 29th. The Detroit Lions hopefully will have an opportunity. I think plan A is to secure as much draft capital as possible. If a team like New England, Washington, if they can make an offer, if they can secure potentially another first-round pick in 2022, which would allow them to have 3, if you can do that, make it happen. But if they have to stay at number 7, I think there's a lot of good options. But in seeing a lot of the talk lately, there has been a debate that's been created, and now it's been fueled by ESPN analyst Dan Orlovsky. I'm real curious because you and I kind of think that potentially the Detroit Lions should target and replenish their wide receiving core after losing Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew.
Don't want me in here with this. Don't want me in here with this. That's you.
I think that the skill position is definitely key because you want to have Jared Goff have somebody to throw to. I mean, if you're Jared Goff, you better be knocking on that door every day and being like, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, give me a guy to throw to if you want me to stay here. Otherwise, other analysts and other pundits are starting to kind of look away at that, and they're going, well, let's take a look here at what the Rams and Brad Holmes and Les Snead tried to accomplish with the Rams in their building. And they're saying, and Dan Orlovsky this week in a teleconference told everybody, he would be genuinely surprised if it was a quarterback or wide receiver. He sees the Lions looking at bigs in the trenches. He sees potentially the likes of a Rashawn Slater, a Penei Sewell. He sees, somebody that can help the bigs in the trenches, and he would be surprised if it was a skill position, a player that ends up on the highlight reel. And I think many people are now starting to really have that real debate. Is it worth it to take a linebacker with talent number 7? Is it worth it to take a wide receiver at number 7 when there's so much depth that you can find in rounds 3, 4, and 5? But other pundits are also coming in saying, look, these are not just A, B, and C wide receivers. These are like cream of the crop, ready to go. If you have an opportunity, if Jamar Chase is sitting there at number 7, you're going to pass up on a big athletic freak to take a Rashawn Slater? I don't know if the fans will like it, but I'm warming up to the idea of an offensive lineman. It just, at this point in time, doesn't seem as much of an impactful move on the O-line, D-line, as it would be at wide receiver. I think you get, the likes of a Jalen Waddle or a Jamar Chase, you potentially could have an offense that can do some things.
Like what? Like this team's like there's so many holes on this team.
Like score points, like keep the ball, like keep the defense that sucks off the field. There's no way in hell. Like this, like the defense is going to be bad. The offense, as far as breaking it down by like subunits, your offensive line is probably the best position group you have. After that, it's really hit or miss. Like the goal is to acquire as much draft capital as possible, right? If that's not going to happen, drafting a wide receiver does nothing to help your team. Do you know the last wide receiver that was drafted? I think it was in the top 5, maybe it was top 10. I'll help you out. It was Western Michigan's own Corey Davis. How good is Corey Davis? He's bouncing around from team to team in the league. Wide receiver is a position where you can draft high-quality, high-skilled guys later in the draft. You don't need to invest high-round, first-round picks in those guys. You can fill out so much more
for this team, whether it be an offensive lineman, whether it be a defensive lineman, whether it be a linebacker. And I think if we were to categorize the Lions' needs, like what they need, it's beef. Honestly, it's beef. Whether it's beef up front on the offensive line, if it's beef up front on the defensive line, or if it's beef right behind that defensive line in the linebacking core. And I think you and I both agree the linebacking core on this team, that subunit, is so horribly depleted as far as talent goes. That is like the one place where you could infuse, you could grab a guy at 7, you could grab a guy at 15, you could grab a guy at 19, you could grab a guy probably in the second round if you needed to, and you could jolt that entire unit and make it better because the linebacking core is so piss poor. Jelani Tavai is at this point going into the season as a starter. If not a starter, he's your first guy off the bench. Like, that's how bad it is. And Jelani Tavai is not any good. So like let that sink in, right? And if you were to go with the offensive lineman route, I mean, think about this. If Penny Sewell's there, I think we both agree and we both get excited if they take Penny Sewell, right? You just solidified your offensive line for the next 5 years. So that means when you go to bring in your quarterback, your young quarterback, in probably a year or two, he's not going to get killed. What happened to Joe Burrow isn't going to happen to your guy.
I love Penei Sewell, but I'm thinking worst case scenario here is 3 quarterbacks go, the top 3 picks, and then you got Atlanta, and then you got, a couple teams ahead of the Lions. I could see 3 quarterbacks, Sewell, Pitts, and Jamar Chase being your first 6 picks, leaving you potentially Justin Fields, Jalen Waddle, Micah Parsons in that range. I don't see potentially the opportunity, maybe you do the Kyle Pitts situation. I don't know, but I see that you're hoping that potentially Jamar Chase is there. But I could see a scenario in which a couple quarterbacks go and maybe even 4 players that are non-quarterbacks get drafted, and then you're stuck with I think an option where you're forced to kind of have to trade down. So the tough part is I get it. I think you're looking at Penei Sewell as option A. A lot of people are talking well about Rashawn Slater. I think he's a name that kind of is making his way there in terms of the top 10. But you've seen mock drafts with Christian Darrisaw in the top 20. So I could see that potentially, and I see the value of it. You're trying to get the run game, but it just stinks that you're right there. And then you're hearing the news too. Other teams are trying to trade up in front of the Lions to get the quarterback. So if you really love Justin Fields and he's there, potentially, I believe it's the it's the Dolphins that are right in front of the Lions right now. They could potentially make another move and secure additional draft capital.
It's the Eagles who are right in front of them.
Eagles,
but
okay.
Everybody's seeing the Dolphins try to jump up in a lot of the mock drafts and a lot of the conversation right now.
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of noise potentially, based on what I've seen, is that it doesn't seem like the prime A+ option is there. But, I'm not going to be terribly upset if it's a Rashawn Slater, if it's a Micah Parsons. I guess, the worst move, the move that would get me upset is if it's a Justin Fields, because then you realize, whoa, it's going to be bad, and you're going to have to hope for 5 really good picks. And then what rookie class really has that much impact? So for me, my worst case scenario is drafting a quarterback. Best case scenario is if Penei Sewell's there, or if they actually pull the trigger on Micah Parsons. But I like the kind of broad range that you're seeing. You could see anywhere from 4 different positions the Detroit Lions target at number 7. It could be linebacker, it could be wide receiver, quarterback.
Here's the thing. I think that tells you everything you need to know about this team, right? Like it is missing so much and it's so devoid of talent. I mean, you could go any direction you really wanted to. I mean, if you wanted to go wide receiver, you really could. And I don't think you could necessarily crucify this team. I just don't think that is the value play. And when you're drafting this high, you're obviously looking to maximize your value with your picks. That's why I had the hardest time with them drafting a cornerback last year at 3. And like, you see all this movement this year, right? You see all these teams trying to leap each other and trade and jump up into the top 3, into the top 5, into the top 10. And yeah, we have many more quarterbacks this year than we did last year. I think we have 5 top quarterbacks that could possibly go in the first round. There could possibly be a 6th quarterback that squeezes in extra late. Whereas last year it was a 3 quarterback race. So the field for quarterbacks is 2 times as much as it was last year. But the Lions drafting at 3 last year were in a prime position where they definitely could have, if they would have held their cards a little bit tighter and played things differently. There's no way in hell I will ever go to my grave believing that they were not fielding offers to move back. And Bob Quinn just
botched it.
Just was an idiot. He just botched all of it. There's no way in hell anybody will ever convince me otherwise. Yeah. But all that being said, the way this draft is set up, like, we just threw out possibly 6 quarterbacks could go in the first round. It's probably going to be 5, but there's a good chance there could be 6. It is a possibility. And the Lions themselves as a team, drafting a quarterback, drafting a wide receiver, those are like the 2 positions that I don't think this team can afford to invest in this high. Not while you need to help solidify that defensive line, help solidify that linebacking core. Your secondary is about to be in a state of transition, and you need guys on your secondary. I don't think the value play is somebody for the secondary, not at 7. But again, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a position or a position group that would not or will not benefit from some type of high-end talent coming in at 7, or even if they were to move back to 15, or 19, or move back to 9, wherever. They're so devoid of talent that this team can do just about whatever it wants. It has so much flexibility, which is why I'm so interested and why I feel so good about this front office and what they've done to this point.
There's no chance they take Devonta Smith, right? His numbers are worse than what you saw because of the fact that he's slight. He's not going to get through a season. Guy. He's a little guy, and his numbers he had to step on the scale. 166, I think your right calf is bigger than Devonta Smith. You give him a little, super kick, and he's going to fly away.
Yeah, I think bad. If there's one guy who I might lose my mind over, it would probably be Devonta Smith at 7.
Oh my God.
And like out of all of the wide receivers that you could possibly go with, right? And we just said, like, I don't. You want them to take a wide receiver. I don't think they should take a wide receiver. If they take a wide receiver at 7, it can't be Devonta Smith. And look, nothing against the Heisman Trophy winner, right? Like, who doesn't want a Heisman Trophy winner? Like, raise your hand. Everybody wants one of those. They're great. The best player in college football last year. But at this level, a guy who's coming in sub 170, sub 175, you got to realize your defensive backs generally push 195 and they hit you like freight trains. You don't want to invest in a first-round pick who might get crumpled. And yeah, this guy might turn out to be great, but I'm not willing to risk that. And that's what it kind of comes down to, too. That's something else you have to balance as a GM. What are you risking here, right? Like, the risk-reward has to be there. And the reward could be great with Devonta Smith, right? Woo-hoo. Fantastic wide receiver, quick, great hands, can get separation. It has a nose to score touchdowns. But at the same point, he can only do those things if he's on the field. He can't do those things if he's on IR or if he's nursing a bad hip or a bad knee or a bad back or anything that Kenny Golladay had last year.
For me, he screams Ryan Broyles 2.0. Just a guy that the Lions had hopes for, but unfortunately had issues with injury. I think you steer clear of that and Jalen Waddle. And for me, it's going to be potentially offensive lineman or linebacker, or if it's Jamar Chase, if somehow or another he doesn't end up in Cincinnati, there's still an opportunity. Kyle Pitts could be the name if it works out perfectly. 3 quarterbacks and Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, maybe somebody else in the mix there. You never know. You could have that opportunity to create an elite offense. But I'm okay with Micah Parsons. I'm okay with the controversy. I'm okay with a lot of the moves that they could make. Ideal situation is draft down. The ideal situation would be to trade down, secure more draft capital, and get this team better.
How far back is too far back?
Yeah, too far back, I think, is past 16.
Past 16? Okay.
Yeah, you want some impact,
Mm-hmm.
It's not likely, and we're not used to seeing it here in Detroit, where you see a general manager find later round talent that is actually positive. I mean, Frank Ragnow did a good job for Bob Quinn, but you look at it and you say, you just want some peace of mind that somebody's going to be there in the top 16 that can get out on the field and stay healthy and perform. And that's what we're all looking for. And next week, we'll do it. We'll have our final Doc and Jock mock draft. We'll tell you who we want. We'll tell you who it's going to be. All the mock drafts will be released in the next 7 days. All the analysis, all the rumors. We'll set it up with at least the top 7 picks, and we'll tell you what we think is going to happen in the first round of the 2021
You know
NFL
what we
draft.
should do? I just had this idea, and we've got the capabilities and the abilities to do this because you're a big timer. You're a baller. You're kind of a boss. You're a boss of bosses. We should see if we can get all the SI Lions guys, and me included, even though I'm not really an SI Lions guy, I just do some stuff. Hardly anything. Just when you send me text messages and you're like, hey, tell me stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. But we should see if we can get all of us on a Zoom call for our show, record it, and we do a whole first round mock. Like we all kind of basically draw a number. We'll all go kind of in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll just kind of rotate around.
Yeah, just go do it. Yeah,
we
can have a talk with that. That'd be awesome. That'd be fun. We could probably do it for next Wednesday and see who can hop on, and open invite. Whoever is available will come on, hop on.
That'd be cool.
We can do it and have a good time with it and have a good old draft discussion. Make a night of it for sure. I think we can set it up and have an opportunity to seriously give it a go. Good idea, man, because everybody wants to know what the Lions are going to do, and it could go so many different ways. I can't wait to see the final mock drafts, what people are looking at, how people are going to shake out, and the Lions have done a good job because they could go a myriad of ways. And at this point in time, there's nothing's locked in stone because 3-4 teams could make offers to jump ahead of the Lions, and that could change everything. But in all this time, Brad Holmes is going to address the media this week, and he will give us a sense of what the Lions are going to do. So look to that as we head to the pre-draft, the pre-draft analysis, and as we head towards the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, cuz I'm very curious, because Michael Fabiano, a great fantasy football analyst for SI, he took a look at the Lions running back situation, like everybody, wondering what the hell's going on since Barry Sanders. Obviously, there have been a myriad of backs that have tried to come in and have success. High draft capital has been invested in the running back position. For whatever reason, the entire tenure of Matthew Stafford, he only had 11 games in which a running back went over 100 yards. 11! One for every year, basically, of his career. That number is so ridiculous, and this documentary should be made about how bad the running game was for Matthew Stafford. But he took a look at it, and he said, you know what? Is there a curse of Barry Sanders? Since he left, the running back situation has been an anomaly. DeAndre Swift comes in, and the first game he has an opportunity to get the win, and he drops the ball. In essence, kind of started to get the door open for Matt Patricia to get his ass out of here. And you look at the running back situation, and he took an astute approach with it, and he said, everyone's kind of looking at DeAndre Swift and expecting a breakout season because he's going to be the focal point. But if the team is bad, if they're behind 17-3, if it takes a while for things to gel, and you're going to need to, in a passing league, count on Jared Goff, if you're behind all the time, you may not see the rushing production. You may see Jared Goff look to throw to DeAndre Swift, but based on history, Goff wasn't really known for throwing the ball to his running backs. It wasn't really emphasized so much in the Rams offense. So it begs the question, are we maybe needing to pump the brakes on crowning DeAndre Swift as the next big-time back? Because basically his point of view is like, until someone shows it, we should assume that potentially he's going to go by the wayside like the others, like Kerryon Johnson, until he can show that he's the guy.
So I'm not willing to say he's going to go by the wayside like Kerryon Johnson, but you don't have anybody else, right? So I'm not going to say he's going to be the second coming of Barry Sanders. I'm not going to say he's going to be the second coming of Emmitt Smith, or he's even going to be as productive of a back as a guy like James Conner in Pittsburgh's offense.
No, we need Alvin Kamara. No,
years.
Alvin. He's got to be Alvin Kamara. He's got to be Barry Sanders. For this team, he's got to do it all. He's got to be worthy of that second round pick. You can't have another bust. He's got to produce. And if it means you give him the ball 15 times and then pass to him 10 times, that's what you got to do and see what he's got.
But can he stay healthy though? Like, here's the thing.
He better.
Again, it goes back to what we were just talking about with Devonta Smith, right? If he's not healthy, he can't give you any of those things. He's not like he's a 235 pound back. He's not a 220 pound back. He's like 210 pounds. So he's a little bit bigger than a guy like Devonta Smith, but still, like, that's a lot of wear and tear on a guy who's got a frame like that.
Man, you're nervous about giving him the rock? You feel like
no? Well, I'm nervous about force feeding him just so he can get touches. I like what you're saying about utilizing him out of the backfield. I think that makes a ton of sense. But like, if you want to run him between the tackles, 15, 20 times a game, I think he's going to be dead by the time you make it to week 8. I don't even know if he makes it to your bye week.
He's 5'9", reportedly 212 pounds. Do you believe
that?
You don't think, potentially speaking, he could gain 8 pounds of muscle with a real NFL offseason, doing the things you got to do to get to that point where he can be a little bit more reliable? Maybe.
Okay, but look at what you just said. A real NFL offseason. They're doing all virtual shit. Like, it's not a real NFL offseason.
Yeah.
It's more COVID BS. So, like, not this year. Maybe next year.
Did you see his dad? His dad is swole.
Oh, his dad's jacked. His dad is huge.
So
I want to go work out with his dad.
Exactly.
But like,
so
I mean, like, here's the thing. I think this is a guy who has a good foundation and lives in a weight room, right? And my biggest critique on him was I just didn't see the breakaway speed, right? He reminded me of just about every other Lions running back you've ever had here, where they'll get to that second level, and instead of having another gear to switch it in, they just kind of go at the same rate. And next thing you know, they're getting drugged down from behind by a defensive back. So for me, his big issue was he just doesn't have that gusto to be able to just turn it on. He's got the jets like a guy like Alvin Kamara who can run away from everybody on the field. For me, he's a guy he's got to run a little bit downhill, but he doesn't have the build. If you're telling me he's coming in and he's 225 and he can run downhill all day, right? Like, all of a sudden his thighs get nice, big and thick, and he adds a little bit of a weight to his traps and his back and his shoulders, and he fills out a little bit more, right? He adds that 8 to 10 pounds, and it's basically in those areas, right? It's in the thighs, and it's in his back, and it's in his neck, and it's in his shoulders. If he can do that, you were talking about what? Touching the ball 25 times a game? Is that what you said? 25 times?
Yeah. Hey.
Okay. If he's touching the ball 25 times, if he adds 10 more pounds, and it's just like that. Like, I don't need him to be chiseled out of granite, but I need him to be fit. I need him to be fit. I need him to be thick. And if he can do that, then yeah, sure. Feed him 25 times. And look, hopefully he ends up with 150 yards, 150 all-purpose yards every single game. I'm cool with that. But right now, I don't think he has the build for it. And remember, this is only his second year as a pro. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Like 2 years ago, this dude was like 19, 20.
Okay.
He's a kid.
I'm saying that there's a potential for him to be utilized more. I don't see him taking a step back, but I could
hope
see
he does. I hope they utilize him more.
Yeah,
but
I hope so. But
you just can't run him between the tackles 15 times. You know, he's just gonna die.
I'm hoping that the defense isn't as bad as we're all making it out to be, so that they are in games, and that it kind of starts out the way the Lions were under Patricia, where they were in games and they just faded late. But if you're behind all the time, if it's a rough start, then you're going to see him having a hard time with production. But
do you think that the offense underneath Anthony Lynn utilizes him more? Not so much in pass pro and not so much to run between the tackles, but
I think he gets the early touches.
To have him catch balls out of the backfield. Yeah, use more screen plays.
I think he gets involved early in a lot of games with the screen and with the run. And if they can get first downs with Hawkinson, it's like Hawkinson and Swift. HS, baby, all day long. And then you mix in the wide receivers when you need to and have them block. HS, baby. It's the HS offense.
So here, this is what bodes well for that too, right?
Yeah.
This is what bodes well for it, is you have a quarterback like Jared Goff, who the big issue with what he was doing with the Rams and the big issue with why he was basically chastised by Sean McVay was he couldn't throw the ball deep. He was the complete opposite of what you had with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford could light it up deep and was pretty accurate down the field. Now, Jared Goff, not as accurate, doesn't really have the arm strength and doesn't have the ability to really open it up and take the top off a defense. He can do it now and again, but he's not going to throw a 65-yard bomb to basically a point as big as a dime. He's more a guy who's going to throw it 25 yards down the field, and it better be as big as a basketball. But what he does really well is he does a lot of stuff underneath, does a lot of stuff, a lot of the screenplays, a lot of the shuffle passes, a lot of doing a little bit of the read option, right? Where it's kind of a disguised handoff to maybe a fullback, and next thing you know, he's shuffling it out to the tailback. Like those things he does really, really well. And I think that's why using DeAndre Swift and getting him involved early will probably work out best for this team, and why you could see an uptick in his production just because of who the quarterback is and what he does well compared to what he doesn't do very well, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think you should thank me this week because I asked you the fairest of question, fair and objective, about Jared Goff, and I didn't tag you in it because I thought there was going to be a little border skirmish between those supporters of Jared Goff and those that weren't when I asked if Jared Goff and when I asked in the latest roundtable, is Jared Goff the best quarterback in the NFC? But rarely does something surprise me in the world of online sports media. So I thought there'd be a little border skirmish, between Detroit Lions fans. What I didn't expect, and if you go and look at that roundtable tweet, I'm looking it up now, it is probably the most popular tweet I've ever done. And it was indescript. All it was a question: is Jared Goff the best quarterback in the North? Because of the fact that, yes, Aaron Rodgers is still there, but he's going to be a year older. Eventually speaking, maybe he's going to come back down to earth, but maybe he's on the trajectory of Tom Brady. It was a simple, fair question, not really meant to intro. I mean, I knew it was going to be exciting and potentially have a debate, but what I didn't expect for the division to take hold of this message and this question and to interpret it like I wrote, Jared Goff is the best QB in the NFC North. So it's a question which could be easily answered no, like you and Vito did quite succinctly. And that's it. I thought that was going to be like, he's a game manager, No, the Packer fans and the Viking fans got all on board and all got butthurt. And then it got, if you look at it, it is our biggest tweet. It got 900,000 views on Twitter, meaning that all those quote tweets, all those replies, all the hate that I got for asking that simple question was circulated heavily. People did read it. And luckily, we got a handful of messages from people that said, if you guys just look, it was just a simple question that the guy asked and they answered it. But the responses ranged from, is Aaron Rodgers dead? Yeah, what happened? This is crazy. This is wild. And the one that really got me head scratching, and one we'll tap into after the draft, is Viking fans chirped in and started puffing their chest. And they're like, bro, Kirk Cousins is better than Jared Goff. What are you smoking on? Yes. They got in there with, the Packer fans got in there with, he's not even the best quarterback on the team, Tim Boyle. And I was like, man, the Jared Goff disrespect was thick. If you want to go look, and there's a bunch of other, you're a troll, you're a moron, and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. That's what we embrace. We embrace the fact that you can comment away, but it's the biggest tweet we've ever done. 13,000 engagements, 900,000 impressions, 4% of our audience replied to it, which is very, very high in regards to Twitter. So, hey, I asked it. I take it. You realize it's a 1 or 2 day thing. That's how it always is. But to see 400 responses and 400 quote tweets, that's a big tweet. And you're like, and I'm like, okay, I'm thankful because your phone would have been blowing up all day, all night with replies and mentions and things like that. But he's not the best quarterback in the division. But I do realize it's a question that Bear fan has been posting for years. They actually seriously asked, is Mitchell Trubisky is he emerging? Is he going to take over Aaron Rodgers? So in April of 2022, I'm going to be asking it one more time to see if Goff has a good year. And I'm just hoping one time I'm going to be cheering really hard for Jared Goff to outduel Aaron Rodgers in that first game, because then I'm going to throw that back and be like, better stats, better numbers, the W. Is he the better quarterback? And we're going to start the divisional war. I'm very happy. The division, they held their quarterbacks tight. And if you even mention a quarterback being better than Aaron Rodgers, Heaven forbid, but I loved it. It was the best part of the week to see the number of people tweeting LOL, is Aaron Rodgers dead, the GIFs, everything. It meant, it was like, wow, we're really doing our thing here and getting some attention for just a simple question. Guys, remember, I've said it before on this podcast, a question's not a take. All I do is just think in my head, hey, could he be, if Jared Goff, as much as we call him a bridge quarterback, a stopgap, if things go well and they insulate him and get him that wide receiver, there's a chance that he can make some throws. He's competitive. Maybe he has a little bit of that fire and tries to prove people wrong. But let's just continue to praise me for having the great roundtable ideas. Comes out Sunday. Adam and Vito, Logan, myself, we weigh in on all the big major topics of in the world of the NFL and the Detroit Lions. Now, before you end up potentially upsetting me greatly, I want everybody to support the project. I just
want to give you a messy diaper. That's all.
Right. I want everybody to support the project. Go ahead on over to your favorite place where you listen to podcasts and type in Detroit Sports Podcast. It's how you keep our lights on and our microphones hot. It's how you keep me and Adam maintaining our 403-week consecutive podcast streak going. It's how you keep our network going. It's how you keep the support and the pipeline for all the good things happening in the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you so much for listening, engaging, and thank you for trolling me. It's fine. The GIFs that you guys put were awesome. It was an amazing experience to think a simple question could almost be seen by 1 million people. Is crazy to me all the way around. Now, we're going to switch gears. We got to talk a little puck because, obviously Anthony Mantha's lighting it up for the Capitals, playing well, empty net goals, doing his thing. But you look at the Red Wings and you go, what's wrong with this team? What would be the fastest way to fix a problem? Why doesn't Steve Yzerman just get his guy in here? Why doesn't he just survey the landscape and just fire Jeff Blashill? What is he waiting for? And he was asked when the Anthony Mantha trade took place, he said, I'm going to quickly talk about the situation. I'm going to quickly review Jeff Blashill's contract status and his job status right after the season quickly. And then that kind of led everybody to initially think, it's going to be potentially a done deal. I got excited. I'm like, okay, let's start looking at potential coaches. Let's start looking at who's next. Then I get the show sheet and I see online, potentially Jeff Blashill, 2022, could still have the job with the Red Wings. Don't tell me that the percentage is more than 50% that Jeff Blashill comes back. Don't do it to me in this mid-April cold day.
I mean, so this is why I wanted to bring this up, because it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal. Unless something crazy happens, it sounds like it's a done deal. And here's the deal. Most of this information is coming from earlier this week. Though the Wings played, I believe it was Dallas, and it was an NBC SN game. And the guys at NBC sat down with Steve Yzerman. They talked to him, and they're reporting that Jeff Blashill is going to get tendered an extension.
Erroneous,
which means that
erroneous, fake news, erroneous. That can't be the case.
Which means he's coming back.
No.
And look, you've been, out of everybody on this podcast, you've been the biggest proponent of firing Jeff Blashill. And you've cited a multitude of answers. You've given a ton of them. If, for some reason, Steve Yzerman decides to bring back Jeff Blashill, if it does happen, are you going to lose confidence in Steve Yzerman?
No.
I mean, this is on the heels of an Anthony Mantha trade that got a ton of praise.
No.
And I know how you feel about Blashill. I know you can't stand him, and I know you want him gone. But would that basically crush your soul? And would you end up being like, look, Steve's out of his mind. He's not seeing the same thing the rest of us are seeing.
No, I think that if Steve Yzerman has this vision to bring him back, he actually wants to see and give Jeff Blashill a team that he put together to coach. That would be the 2022 season where you get a lot more of the young talent, a lot more infusion of what you have. These guys, obviously are a collection of talent that was put together by somebody else. And I think that Steve Yzerman wants to give Jeff Blashill the fairest opportunity possible. Now, there's still an opportunity he could be blown out. NBC could be just sipping the Kool-Aid that they're being told. I know sources and how that works. It sometimes depends on who you're hearing from. But I could understand why. Because is there really a hot name that just got let go that you just have to bring in here right away? No.
No, but here I think Gerard Gallant's a guy who Red Wing fans would rejoice if he was brought in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the guy, right? If there was a coach out there, right? There was a dude out there who you were like, yeah, let's get him in here and I think things could change. It would be Gerard Gallant. And look, I tend to agree with you, right? I don't think Jeff Blashill is the savant coach. Here's the thing. He did a really good job in Grand Rapids. They ended up winning the AHL. They won the Calder Trophy. Is it the Calder Trophy? I'm getting the trophy wrong. But they ended up winning with the Griffins. And the thought process was he could come up to Detroit with a young team and he could get a ton out of these guys, and he would be able to help coach them up and develop them. It hasn't happened. Whether it's just because the way the league moves too fast, whether it's just his coaching style falls on deaf ears, whether it's because he has a hard time connecting with some of the veterans, the guys who have been there, done that, or you know this, you see it in football all the time. Sometimes the head coach, his voice just ends up ringing hollow, and sometimes you need a change. And I'm not going to say I'm going to lose confidence in Steve Yzerman if Blashill was brought back, but I think what it tells you, and this goes back to a little bit about what we talked about last week, this team's nowhere near ready to win right now. And why would you bring in a coach to basically get this team in a position to win only for things to kind of go sideways? Hearing the same voice over and over and over again. Listen, I can tell you about it. I've listened to your voice now for 7-8 years. Sometimes I just tune you out. There are times when we're just talking, and I know you do it to me. We're just talking, and then it's like, wait, what? What'd you say? It's a good thing we can edit these things, because if people heard the real runs, it'd be crazy. So I get them tuning him out. So why would you bring a guy in now after this season? Like, you agree they're not in a position to win next year. So why bring him in and then basically burn 2 years of his coaching to basically turn around in a year and a half after that to fire him to bring somebody else in? Give Blashill a 2-year extension, and then once this team's in a position to win, that's when you move him out. You bring in your guy.
Okay, yeah.
And it's similar to what you do with a rookie quarterback, right? Why? Yeah. Like we talked about this a couple weeks ago. You're not going to bring in a quarterback this year because he's going to sit behind golf for 2 years. Why the hell would you do that? You're going to burn 2 years of his contract. Just doesn't make any sense. So same thing with the head coach. Why do that? They're not ready to win. They're not going to win next year, and they're not going to win the year after that. So why do it? Just don't do it. Just wait.
2 Calder Cups for the Grand Rapids Griffins.
There you go. It was Calder Cup. All right. I was right. Yes.
2012.
I know my hockey, baby.
2012, 2013 season, and 2016, 2017 season. They got two championships. But I look, and I guess the reason why many of us want this to move forward is it would kind of really stamp the rebuild, because Jeff Blashill represents the old guard. He represents the old era. I mean, he was the Ken Holland guy as well. And when you start the process of moving forward, usually it also entails, psychologically speaking, you move on from the former coach who has not done much with the big club. I mean, do you see, hey, this is a staple of Jeff Blashill, other than taking a lot of 6-man-on-the-ice penalties, having a hard time clearing the zone, and going through ridiculous streaks where you don't score a power play goal? You know, I mean, yeah, he does a lot of good things well. Yeah, he can have the positive attitude, and he's level-headed, and he has the respect of some of the players. But by and large, collectively, I think anybody, even the assistants that he's got on the staff, could probably get a little bit more of a spark at this point in time. And it's just unfortunate because it just feels like last year was a wasted year with Yzerman. This year is a complete waste. Next year, another waste. It's what's going to happen. And for Yzerman to signal, be patient by bringing back Jeff Blashill, I'm not ready. Why do you think it's a waste? They're not going to, because they're not winning? Because they're not going to have, probably, with Blashill, I think they're not going to be as competitive as they would be with anybody else with the same talent. If you have the same roster, if Yzerman doesn't bring up anybody, if the Velenos, if all the young cats don't come over, and you have a different coach, I think you get at least 10 more points out of them. You get better games, you get better effort, you get more consistent play. I think that this team is underwhelmed and underperformed with the talent that they have. I think you get 15 more points out of Dylan Larkin with a new coach that gets more out of them. But what if I told you the majority of this roster
isn't going to necessarily be here in 2 years. Like the roster that you're seeing on the ice right now, they're not going to be here in 2 years.
Right.
It's going to be different.
So you're
this
patient.
is what I think we're finding out, right?
You're patient to deal with this another year with the same kind of stuff? With Jeff Blashill at the helm?
It is because we don't have another option, because I see the long-term plan, right? What Ken Holland left Steve Yzerman with, we refer to in football circles as buried cupboard, right? It's buried cupboard. Like there's nothing there. He had nothing to work with. Ken Holland did such a great job of trading away so many assets, trading away draft picks, bringing in guys who would give you a 20-game stretch, then go down with an injury, and you guys would be out in the first round of the playoffs, that you had no depth. You have nothing in this system. It's kind of like the Detroit Tigers, where their farm system was depleted by Dave Dombrowski. Same thing here with the Detroit Red Wings. And everybody talks about how the Red Wings would over-ripen their talent. No, the problem was the talent wasn't good enough to come up and compete. The talent wasn't there. There was no over-ripening. They just weren't there. And the style of play that Steve Yzerman wants to run with, the guys that Ken Holland had here just aren't working. So you're going to have to shuffle the deck, and you're going to have to flip over this roster, and it's going to take time. It's going to probably take another 2 years. I was on the bandwagon that this team would be competing for a playoff spot. They would be in a position where we were coming down the home stretch. They would be in playoff contention, but they wouldn't get there, right? And then next year, they would be in a spot where this team should be probably the 9th team, right? So just on the outside. And then a year later, they should be as the 7th seed in the playoffs and then working their way up. That's not going to happen. You have to add another year or two onto all of that, and it's just because of the job that the former general manager did. He didn't do a very good job, and Steve Yzerman's got to come in and basically burn it all to the ground to start over, which sucks if you're a Wings fan. So you're stuck with Jeff Blashill. This is your guy.
Have you heard all the noise and buzz about this coach, this college coach out of New Hampshire named Barry?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard about Barry McCockner from New Hampshire?
Barry McCockner. I knew you were going somewhere. I didn't know where you were going. I knew you were going somewhere.
I had it
That's
set
good.
up.
I like that. That is good.
I had it set up, ready to deliver. I'm like, all right, we're going to tell a joke. And if you don't know, there's a fake Twitter account called Barry McCockner. And he posts all these weird stories and sometimes makes fake profiles of Ian Rappaport and things like that, but he's very well known, Barry McCockner. So I figured it was a good time I couldn't figure out how to weave in D's nuts into a hockey conversation, but I figured, okay, New Hampshire, I can say Barry, and you were supposed to say who, but it was good enough. You said no. So it was delivered well.
It's
we got to
because,
laugh.
look, I know you so well. I knew you were going somewhere with it, and I knew it was a setup. Okay. And I was like, okay, let's see where he goes with this.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about New Hampshire college hockey, right?
I was going to be like, originally I was going to be like, is he the University of New Hampshire's coach? It's like that's a decent program for hockey. So I was like, all right, like what are we talking about here?
I rated it as a 7 joke. It could have been set up better. I could have tried better, but I figured I was going to go right to the punchline.
Look, I thought you did a really good job with it.
That's the only thing I can do at this point when we're talking Wings hockey is make jokes and try to get some levity on a season where you're going to miss the postseason. It went by quick, but we'll talk more about some rumors regarding Dylan Larkin. Should he be the captain still? Is he worthy? Should he be traded? Should he be considered?
Dude, I want to trade his ass so bad. We'll save it for another day, but
exactly.
Man.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. You can get more of the hijinks and hilarity from the Doc at Detroit Podcast. And if you've enjoyed or not enjoyed anything that you've heard this week, hit us up. Let us know. Feel free. We're okay with it. We're big boys. We pull up our big boy pants and we take all the noise based on what we say and do here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. That 45 minutes flew by. It was a good time. Always good to talk sports. The draft is upon us. Now we're going to dig our nose deep into mock drafts, Dane Brugler's athletic big board, Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, John McEnroe's epic mock draft. All that in the mix. Gotta be something you pay attention to in regards to the preparations ahead of a major draft for the Detroit Lions. And again, You heard it here first. Brad Holmes will address the media at some point this week to address what the Lions are doing pre-draft. Stay tuned. SIL Lions, Detroit Sports Podcast. And thank you guys so much for letting us be a small part of the Detroit sports community. We greatly appreciate it, cuz big boy time, baby. NFL draft episode coming up soon.
I'm excited for it.